This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices climbed about 1% on Friday, settling at a two-week high, as the intensifying war in Ukraine this week boosted the market's geopolitical risk premium. Brent futures rose 94 cents, or 1.3%, to settle at $75.17 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose $1.14, or 1.6%, to settle at $71.24. Both crude benchmarks were up about 6% for the week, their highest settlements since November 7 as Moscow stepped up its Ukraine offensive after Britain and the U.S. allowed Kyiv to strike deeper into Russia with their missiles.
China's crude oil imports are set to rebound in November after sharp price cuts boosted demand for Iraqi and Saudi oil, offsetting a drop in Iranian supply, according to analysts, traders and ship tracking data. A slump of 17% in global oil prices in the third quarter also sparked Chinese stockpiling demand while refiners prepare for higher seasonal fuel consumption ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday starting in late January, analysts say. The November rebound in volumes for the world's top crude oil importer comes after 6 consecutive months of annual declines as Chinese refiners struggled with weak margins and run cuts.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
U.S. energy infrastructure providers are on pace to post their best year in many, as investors hedge against volatility in the commodity markets and wager on long-term demand fueled by the rise of power-guzzling technologies such as generative AI. The Alerian Midstream Energy Index, which tracks major North American pipeline and storage companies, is up about 46% this year after hitting a record high in March. This compares with the nearly 25% gains in the broader S&P 500 index during the same period. Alerian index constituents Kinder Morgan and Targa Resources are set for their best yearly gains, while Williams County is on track for its best year in nearly 2 decades.
Indian refiners' throughput in October rose over 3% year-on-year to 5.04 million barrels per day, 21.3 million metric tons, provisional government data showed on Friday. As exports didn't rise meter per meter, month-on-month, the refinery increase is the result of higher domestic demand, which still benefits from solid economic growth in India, said UBS analyst Giovanni Stanovo. India's crude oil imports rose about 3.9% in October to 19.52 million metric tons on a monthly basis, while total product exports plunged over 22%, government data showed. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Global crude steel production in October rose 0.4% from a year earlier to 151.2 million tons, World Steel Association data showed on Friday. Crude steel output from China, the world's top producer and consumer of the metal, rose 2.9% to 81.9 million tons in October, the data showed.
Prices for copper and aluminium fell in London on Friday as data showing a tumble in Eurozone business activity weakened the euro, and the dollar's strength weighed on prices for industrial metals. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange was down 0.4% at $8,971 per metric ton by 16:54 GMT. The Eurozone's dominant services industry, contracted and manufacturing, sank deeper into recession this month, a survey showed on Friday. The euro plunged to a 2-year low after the data, and the US dollar index hit a fresh 2-year high.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Following are selected highlights from a report issued by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Foreign Agricultural Service, FAS, post in Brasilia, which projected Brazil's 2024-25 coffee crop at 66.4 million bags from a previous official USDA forecast of 69.9 million bags. Brazil's 2024-25 total coffee production is forecast at 66.4 million bags, 0.2% higher than the previous season. This timid growth comes in the aftermath of a strong period of adverse weather conditions in the main producing regions, which led to a decrease in initial estimates for the season. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.